How's it going, my fellow fart sniffers? Welcome back to UTU. Uh, I'm SuperSuuSGamr, and I'm here with Dostwood.
Hey,
The other
Super
day, we just got
Super
through.
Sus
What?
Gamer. Are you a smart feller or a fart smeller?
I could be both. It's 2022.
Yeah, I'm a fart smeller personally.
Mm,
All right.
yeah, man.
Yeah, man. All right.
So the other day, we just got through watching probably one of the best films that there will ever
It
be,
is
Princess
the best
Mononoke.
one. It is the best film of all time.
Like, I'm not totally sure about that 100%, but
I know.
even if I've seen every single film that were to have ever come out, by this whole studio and company, like it would still rank in at least the top three.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely true. I know you haven't seen all of them or even most of them. And I know people regard Spirited Away as the best one, but I personally just cannot do that. Even if I really love Spirited Away. And I
The
think,
ones that,
and I think it probably would be difficult for you as well to rank it higher, considering how much you love it.
I mean, the ones that really just the two that I'm the most familiar with at the moment are Princess Mononoke and Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Right.
Both of which are excellent, but for me, Princess Mononoke really inches right above it. Actually,
Yeah, man.
yeah, I'd say so. But anyway, so yeah, the other day,
Last week,
Josh,
actually, exactly a week ago.
what?
Exactly a week ago, we watched it.
Yeah, a week ago, Dostwood and I just got through watching it, and it's not like this is my first time watching it. In
Right.
fact, this is probably Dostwood's like 12th time watching it, maybe.
Like 10th or 11th. Yeah.
But the movie is just so freaking good that I thought this would make for like a great talking point here on the channel. And since this is like your favorite movie of all time,
Yeah,
I also thought
yeah, I'd love to talk about it.
it would definitely make for a good outlet to get all your feelings towards it out of your system and just gush about it all you want.
Hell yeah. And it's great because like I said, I've seen this movie at least 10 times. That's how many times I have it logged on Letterboxd. But and I know, and this is your third time seeing it. So I'd imagine, well, I do have lot to talk about. I'd imagine you'd also probably have a lot
Actually,
to
you know
talk about
what?
as well.
I've actually kind of lost track, but I mean, look, I mean, it's not one of those movies you have to watch several times in order for it to fully click with you. It's not as complex as something like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Evangelion.
I know. I'm just saying I've watched it so many times because it's so good. Um, and you
Exactly.
and I'm just saying that since you've seen it three times at this point, you probably
I
noticed a lot more. Because I know there
Yeah,
is a lot more you learned about on your third viewing because you watched it with me that I had to explain.
definitely. I have a like an even better grasp of it than before. But like I was saying earlier, it's not as complex as something like Evangelion, but I think the movie like it leaves you with just enough to think about while also keeping it somewhat simple, like easy to wrap your head around.
Right, yeah, it's not too complex, but it has its complexity, which is good because it's great for the people who want to go in and just have a casual viewing experience and it turned out to be blown away in the end. I have seen some really dumb criticism about people thinking the movie is too boring, which is pretty
Oh
stupid.
yeah, I was definitely going to touch on that in a lot of the action scenes, but I might as well do it now. I mean, we're probably going to be all over the place with talking about it, but
Yeah.
I mean, all the main aspects of it we're definitely going to go through. But this movie, as far as I can tell at least, based on my knowledge, this is pretty violent and pretty yeah, just very violent, almost gory, but not
No,
quite.
no,
It's
it's definitely not gory. No. It's violent, sure, but it's I wouldn't say it's really gory or anything. It's
yeah, oh
sure,
yeah.
because it's violent, but it's very very tame with its violence.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's no,
It's ta-
not gory.
it's
That's the wrong word. I'm sorry.
it's tasteful. The movie is tasteful with its violence.
I think for Studio Ghibli standards, this is very violent. A lot of the
Oh
other
yeah,
films,
it is because it's by
um,
far the most violent movie. But even then, it's very tame and tasteful with its violence because doesn't, because it's not over the top, and it doesn't want to be either. It still wants to be appropriate for like all audiences, you know?
Hmm. A lot of them, yeah, a lot of the other films have been probably not even violent at all, but this one I think, I mean, it's very action packed. I mean, you have a lot of scenes with the main character and main protagonist Ashitaka. He rides on his, he's an elk. Elk?
Yeah, red elk. He rides on his red elk named Yakul.
You cool, man?
You cool, man. You cool?
Hey, you're cool. You're cool, man.
You cool, man.
But yeah, so like the movie starts off with him riding really fast on Yakul. He's being chased by this gigantic boar
No, he's not.
that's just covered in
No, he's not.
hate. What?
He's not being chased by a boar. No, he's not being chased by the boar. He's running towards the village, which is being attacked.
Well, I'm pretty sure at some point he does get into
Yeah, he does.
like
He does, but the movie starts out with him running towards the village on Yakul, because the
right,
village is about to be attacked by
right.
by the boar god.
Yeah, but going back before I get to that, going back to like the violence in the film. I mean, you have a lot of these like moments where he
Not even a
takes
lot,
his arrow and
just a handful. Just a handful. There aren't that many violent scenes.
yeah, exactly. But he takes his arrow and he completely decapitates these guys. Like he
Yeah, that happens like
shoots an
three
arrow right
times.
at them, and their heads are cut clean off.
Yeah. And it's not even that graphic either. It just sort of pops off.
Exactly, just totally pops off. And there's like also these explosions towards like the like last third of the movie with like you see these guys, their arms are like totally burnt off and they're screaming.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like the way I'm describing it, this sounds like pretty gruesome, but it's really not.
It's really not. Yeah,
It's
you could show this to maybe not a super young kid, but you could show this to someone who's 9 or 10, and they'd be able to watch it.
Exactly. And I think what makes a lot of these like violent scenes like tasteful is how they're not like dwelled on so dramatically.
Oh yeah, it's not like it's not even, they don't even last very long, and they don't need to. It just, and they all serve a purpose of the story, and it's not like a lot of other media where it's just there to be edgy.
Yeah, they're not over the top, and they're like there's like long periods of time in between these. But I think these violent scenes and such, they are kind of necessary because I think violence and death really add stakes to the story.
Right.
You know,
Not only
like
that,
it's
but also the violence and the death represents the hatred of the themes of hatred and anger and all of these different factors that make all of these different characters so black and white. And because there isn't because there's so many, there's because one major theme within it is just, it's just hatred, and how it can be, and how it can consume anybody, no matter
hmm
how no matter how moral they think they are, you know.
exactly.
And
Oh shoot, what is it that I was saying before? Oh
um
yeah. I mean, just generally. Well, I guess it really all depends on who you show the movie to at what age, but it's not like it's something that kids can't handle.
yeah, of
I
course.
mean, I'd say, well, a good portion. But it's definitely something that that kids need. You know.
Yeah, of course. I think that kids need to be exposed to movies like this because I'd much rather show a kid Princess Mononoke than, like, I don't know, the, the most recent Pixar movies to have come out in the last decade.
Oh
Because
God, don't even get me started on those. That's like a whole other bag of worms.
I know, we're not gonna go over that, but all I can say about those is just 99% of it is just manufactured garbage
It
with
is just
very little inspiration and very little purpose to it, and they're just kind of mindless for kids. Meanwhile, you get something like Ghibli movies, Princess Mononoke, or even Spirited Away or Nausicaa. You could show that to a kid any time, and there's so much more purpose and intent and and
There's just so much
and
meaning behind them,
meaning packed
and
into it, and it's incredible because they'll get so much out of it.
there's like a lot of depth to all the characters. Like everything, dude. This is probably this is probably the most important thing I'll say about the movie. Like everything feels so fully developed. Every character, every setting, every dynamic among characters. Like
Right.
the whole city of Irontown. It feels like a real town. Like you get a lot of these like showcases of how the
Like
whole place
yeah,
works.
like how
And
how their society works, how their economy is stable, the roles of all the people within the city and how they all work together.
mhm.
Yeah, it's insane how well thought out it is. But I think let's circle back to the beginning of the movie. But even before we start about talking about the beginning of the movie, I feel like it's a bit worth mentioning how we both started out, how we first saw this film. So I'm going to start out first because this does lead to eventually how you saw it. But
Mhm.
back in March or April of 2020, I was on this Discord server I'm no longer in. I didn't know anybody from that server very well, except one person that I don't talk to anymore. And what happened is they were going to host a movie night for a movie called Princess Mononoke, and I've never heard of it.
Okay.
And I looked it up, and I saw, oh, it's made by that one studio called Studio Ghibli. Okay, and I didn't really know what to think about it because, as many of my friends know, and as you know, Brian, I'm not an anime fan at all. I'm really not.
Okay,
Um,
so okay, wait, I gotta stop you right there. So the thing with me and anime is that like it's not like I haven't tried. I'll tell you that much right now.
yeah,
There, I have plenty of friends who are always like constantly recommending me shows, but I just don't feel that motivation to really check them out right away. I'm not sure when I ever really will. Um, but I mean, I've definitely seen some that I've really liked, but just generally, I'm pretty slow when it comes to checking out new anime. You
yeah,
know.
and that's fine and everything. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, I'm really not an anime fan at all. The majority of it I just don't like because for many reasons. One of the main reasons being a lot of it's too fast paced and annoying. A lot of the voice acting is ear grating, and there's also the whole issue. I also just hate fan service too. I really hate over sexualization in something that um, that would be completely unnecessary. Like I'm not saying like oh I don't like things that are attractive. No, that's not it. I just don't like sexualization or typical anime tropes.
I get well, I can get your whole mindset and perspective on that because I think it takes away from
What
the
could be there. It takes away from what could be within its quality. It takes away from the experience because it's just added there for the sake of filler and doesn't really serve a purpose other than to keep the viewer's attention.
exactly. It's just kind of unnecessary and kind of uh,
Annoying.
yeah. But like really for me, when it comes to a lot of anime I watch, I mean, especially if it's like really generic shows that just come in and come out within seasons. There's just so many cliches that I could write down. I could write down like over 2 dozen cliches that you'll find within so many shows. And well, I guess sort of really I can't find much of any, in Princess Mononoke.
Yeah,
That's
you
another
can't.
thing about it too.
You
It feels like
can't.
a very timeless movie.
You can't because you can't for so many reasons, and I don't think it's even worth comparing at all. It's really not worth comparing at all because
Oh, of course not.
I don't see Princess Mononoke as anime. I see it as a film. That's how I see it.
I view it as a work of art because, well, I mean, I was going to touch on the animation,
Right, yeah,
like,
it's a work of art. It's but I'm saying I don't see it as an anime movie. I just see it as a film, and that's how I also see every other Ghibli film. And
yeah, man.
let me just finish up what I was saying about how I got into it because we've already gotten off track about that.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
so so that server kind of that so there was that server announcement and didn't really know what to think, so I just kind of went in there. I watched a little bit of the beginning. It was actually the sub. That's how I first watched it, with the Japanese voice acting and the English subtitles. And I was watching it, and I was like, and there were after some difficulties, I got set up, and I started watching. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. The animation's really nice, and keep in mind, this is my first ever Ghibli film. And as I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we never actually got to finish it, which sucked because it was
Oh,
really
dude, that
cool.
must have left you
Yeah, we never
like
finished
in
it.
your
We only got like I think the point we got up to was the last part we got up to. I'm pretty sure was oh yeah, yeah, it was up to the point where it was the scene. It was nighttime, and San and Ashitaka, they were in that cave that they were sleeping in, and then Ashitaka left to go talk to Moro outside of the cave. Remember that scene?
Yeah, also, dude, you know what that reminds me? Do we have to like put up a spoiler warning or anything? I don't think
No,
we have
of
to.
course not. Not people aren't going to watch this without seeing it. We can't discuss this movie without discussing spoilers.
Right, exactly. Okay, so
That yeah,
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
why. I don't know what you were thinking.
yeah. Okay, so to whoever's watching this or view or listening to this and hasn't seen this
Dude, we've
movie,
already spoiled it. It's not even worth saying.
well, no, I mean, I just want to say real quick, definitely go check out this movie because it's a freaking classic. It's a masterpiece, 10 out of 10.
Dude, chances are
And
they already
but
have.
also just form your own opinion on it, man.
Like I said, chances are they've probably already seen it if they're watching this because we've already spoiled it and we've already been recording for 16 minutes. So
Bruh.
anyway, yeah, we never finished it. We left at the scene where Ashitaka was talking to Moro, and that's kind of where we left it off, which kind of sucked because I thought I really enjoyed it. Then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to finish the movie on my own. This is before the movies were put on HBO in the U.S. I know outside of the U.S. They put all the movies on Netflix, which I would have preferred, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I had to find it online, and I finished watching the sub on some sketchy online website, and I loved it. I thought it was awesome. And then I was, and then I forget if I either rewatched it or I forget if I either rewatched it or I watched another Ghibli movie. I think I just watched another Ghibli movie after that point. And when I did, I think that was just sort of the rabbit hole I got sucked in. It wasn't until I hosted the movie on my own server and we tried watching the dub but never finished that, so I finished the dub on my own. And then I came to the conclusion, yep, this is my favorite animated movie. And it wasn't until when I approached SuperSuuSGamr back in 2020, like, hey, have you ever seen this movie? It's by Studio Ghibli. And he said he's only ever seen Nausicaa. And we watched it at the same time in a call. And he loved it too. He also thought it was like a 10 out of 10 film. And the rest is history. And here we are now.
Exactly. But yeah, if I were to add anything onto that, okay. Also, Moro is the name of like the huge mother wolf,
Yeah,
right?
Son's mother.
Yeah, she raises San, and okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
I wasn't sure if I remembered her name correctly. But as for like, yeah, I did watch Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind before Princess Mononoke. But even then, before that, well, I'm like even then, it was. I mean, shout out to Frollo. It was mainly him who got me into that movie. Then it was you who got me into Princess Mononoke.
yeah, and I actually got to watching Nausicaa soon after, in the summer of 2020 because of Frollo's recommendation. I was probably gonna watch it anyway, but also thanks to Frollo, I bought the manga too. And again, I'm not someone that likes anime at all, but Ghibli is just a huge exception because
Oh yeah,
it doesn't feel like anime. It feels just like animation. It's
and
only,
you know,
yeah, and I remember one of my favorite quotes from Miyazaki is that one of my favorite quotes from Miyazaki is, and while I'm paraphrasing, and this isn't his exact quote, he states that he does not like the current state of anime because he believes the illustrators and animators within the industry hate the way humans look. And what he means by that is in 99% of anime, all the characters you see that are supposed to be human are extremely disproportionate and barely like resemble a human at all, and specifically in like female characters who have like overly sized like boobs, and
You have
um,
not. I have not heard about any of this stuff.
what do you mean?
About like Miyazaki's feelings towards the current state of anime.
Oh, dude, he does not like it, and I don't blame him. I'm with him. Um, and he talks about how because of the over sexualization and reliance on all that kind of stuff to keep the viewer's attention in the creation of certain character designs, with like overly large eyes and overly large body parts and all that other kind of stuff. He talks about how he thinks a lot of these people just kind of hate the way humans look and are just making this as sort of like some kind of weird fantasy instead of depicting a fantasy in a realistic world like Miyazaki does. Because what I love about the Ghibli art style is because not only is it beautiful, but also because the characters look realistic but animated. They kind of look like they're real people pulled
Right.
into like an anime like art style.
Yeah. I mean, I will.
And it's amazing because you don't see the totally disproportionate body parts and big eyes and weird hair colors and everything.
Well, I mean,
You see people that look realistic.
I definitely will say this. Um, you can like all these Studio Ghibli films. They all have like one sort of like consistent style that is. It's like consistent throughout all the films. Like when you're watching a Studio Ghibli film, you can tell immediately that it's a Studio Ghibli film. It's like there's like a signature style to it.
Yeah.
But also take for instance the monk. What's his name? It's
Jigo.
Jiko. That's right. Even with how
He's just this little fat monk. That's all he is.
yeah, but he's still like anatomy wise, the way he's drawn out and animated, he's still you can still imagine him like in the real world.
He's still realistic in a way.
Though I will say, he kind of looks like Wario.
He does kind of look like Wario.
Yo. What?
Bro, I love Mario.
Through Mario Miyazaki.
Mario Miyazaki. Bruh.
Oh my god. Hang on a second. Oh yeah. Oh, one other thing I want to mention. This is sort of this isn't totally relevant. I mean, kind of. But I think I actually was exposed to Studio Ghibli at an even earlier stage in my life. I must have been in pre-K, and I watched like 10 minutes of Ponyo, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Anyway,
Like,
let's get back on topic though, because
Like, I didn't even know if I loved it or not. I just thought it was weird. It was very different from what I'm used to. But yeah.
let's get back on topic though, because I want to, because even though this is sort of like the first 20 or so minutes we've been recording have been sort of our freestyle and rambling opening thoughts about how we got into it and how we feel about certain parts of the film. I think now let's try to stick on topic. Let's try as best as we can, because that way we can divide the video into timestamps. That would be a good idea.
I think we're going to want to start with the plot first.
Yes, of course. We're starting with the plot. Let's not go off topic. So, starting with the plot itself, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily call it simple, but it's understandable and it's effective in how it's represented because of its structure is sort of starts off with Ashitaka, who we kind of already figure out is a very important person based on the way he talks to these three girls from the village, and as he's riding in on Yakul to his village because of it being in danger of Nago, the boar god that's attacking, and he comes across the three girls. You understand there's something wrong, but you don't know what yet. It's not until he gets this tower and he sees Jisun, who's the old man in the tower that's keeping the lookout. And then you
Right.
see these like, and you see these, you know something's wrong. You see this rotting, you see all this rotting environment within the forest, and you even see it in the very beginning of the movie before Ashitaka sort of makes his first appearance on Yakul, with which is done before, and before that you hear some amazing narration by Keith David if you're watching the dub. And what I love about what he says is, it's sort of, he says in ancient times, and he sort of talks about how the relationship and bonding between man and forest over the course of a long period of time, and you're sort of in for like this legend, this story that's about to be presented. And it's not until Ashitaka's fighting off Nago, the boar god, from his village, and Nago is this corrupted, large pig monster, and he infects Ashitaka, his arm, with the same thing that affected Nago and turned him into a demon. And what I really like is the Imishi people, which are the people that, Ashitaka's
Yeah.
village. The Imishi people.
Like they're the people who live in like that current like village that he was initially in.
Yeah, and they, what I really like is that it shows the Imishi people are very respect nature, and they respect nature and the gods and animals, and this is shown with the elder of the village, the wise woman, and how she prays to Nago, and asking for a sort of forgiveness, before Nago rots away and dies from his curse. And
That's right. I forgot about that. It's like those small touches that really make everything feel fleshed out, as I was going on about earlier.
right, yeah, and the reason why I love that is because this kind of shows the environment that Ashitaka was raised in, and how there's a reason why he's so connected with nature, and why he and why later on in the film, when he's in the main forest, and why he's respected by the forest spirit, and why the forest spirit kept him alive, and
Right.
and so we know that Ashitaka is unfortunately having to leave, and he's being banished from the village, because that's what that has to do with the village's traditions, and they have no choice, even though he did save their lives. And one of my favorite scenes very early on in the movie is when he's just about to leave, and Kaya, who's one of the three girls in the beginning, who's Ashitaka's little sister, brings him the crystal dagger. Brings him this crystal dagger, which becomes very important later on, and gives it as sort of a parting gift, even though she's not allowed to watch him leave the village forever, which is sad to think about because.
It is really sad to think about. I wanted to touch on that for a second.
Mhm.
Yeah, like their whole traditions of okay, well, firstly, before that, uh, like you soon find out like where this. I like how hate is portrayed in this film. It's in this physical.
That we should talk about the whole hate thing when we get to the part about themes and morals.
Okay.
Let's just save on that for now.
Okay, but
We're talking about
you,
we're talking about the plot. Remember?
well, I mean, yeah, early in the movie you find out that it was like this small like ball of iron that was shot into the boar
Right.
that turned him into like this demon of hate and everything.
Uh huh.
And as Ashitaka is trying to fight him off away from the village, like it gets a hold of him, and he is left with this rash across his entire arm. And over the course of the entire movie, it just like it gets worse and worse.
Right. And
And because of that, that's what causes him to leave the village, because it could potentially be like it could leave a negative effect on everything else, and he had to leave.
it has to do with their village's traditions. Yeah, and that's why he had to leave. Um,
it is really unfortunate. Like that really sucks. But I mean, it's something. It's understandable.
We wouldn't have a movie without it. um, but yeah, but but yeah, like that ball of iron that was used to kill Nago, he uses that as a sort of way to find out the source of it, to see if he can get a cure from it, and that's what kind of he's looking for at this point. He's trying to look for a way to get better because obviously he doesn't want to die. But
Exactly.
even though he was banished from his village, is never allowed to return. Now his journey is to go look for a cure to find and cure his the demon mark,
I really
and
like how. Oh, what?
and 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 how he's going about in his journey, because now we after he leaves the village with the crystal dagger that his sister gave him, um, that's sort of his only referendum of his past life, and he's still like a pretty young guy, and he's the prince of this village, and he has to go and but what I love about Ashitaka's character is that even though he pretty much his whole life is completely gone, he just keeps going forward. He just keeps going. He doesn't stop,
He does.
and he has this and he's a very strong determination to continue his life. And as and I like this sort of abridged journey that he goes across. That's made all the way to the village where he's trading for rice.
I also
Um,
really.
yeah,
I also. Sorry. I also really like how, like, tone wise, like, because of the village he was raised in, well, I guess the village he grew up in, he comes off as a very. He comes off as a very respectable and very soft spoken guy.
he's very patient, which is what he is. He's very patient,
Yeah.
and um, and like what he says later on, um, uh, he's seen eyes unclouded by hate, and which means that he is able to find the good in everybody. Remember, find the good in the worst kind of people, but
Yeah. The good in
but
all things evil.
yeah, find the good in all things evil, to and find the evil in things good,
Right. It's
to
you
recognize
must.
the good and the morals people have, because um, in my opinion, I think Ashitaka probably holds the ideology of believing that every basic human is good, deep down, you know.
Exactly. You must see with eyes unclouded by hate. See the good in that which is evil, and the evil in that which is good. Pledge yourself to neither side, but vow instead to preserve the balance that exists between the two. I think that has to be, out of all the quotes I've read for him, that has to be the most powerful and, like, just the most meaningful. And I really like that. That entire quote does sort of get implemented into the actual dialogue, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it does. It does later on. First, the village elder, she says something very similar to that early on when he's about to leave. And the second time that's ever mentioned is when Ashitaka beats Eboshi, and he says that to her, which she kind of just laughs it off, thinking it's kind of just some philosophical nonsense. Um,
Right.
and and as we see Ashitaka's journey eventually to Irontown, well, first saving two men from that were attacked by San and her wolf brothers, he saves these two men that he goes out of his way to rescue, despite all the hardship that will go into it. And we see this extremely compassionate side of Ashitaka, where he just cares about most people that he meets, and he wants to avoid killing as much as possible. He only does it really out of self-defense, um,
Exactly.
and which proves out of self-defense or saving others. Like we see for the very first time in the first scene that I'd call violent, where a village is being ransacked and raided by a bunch of samurai who work for the emperor, and he saves one woman from being killed by a samurai who by just shooting an arrow, and which like takes his arms off clean. In the second
Oh, I
moment,
remember this. Okay.
yeah, in the second moment is when these two samurai on horses threaten his life, and he warns them first before shooting, but they don't let up, so he shoots them and
Their head,
takes one of their heads off clean.
yeah, their heads come clean off. Yeah, he doesn't do it just because oh it's fun to kill people. He does it out of self defense.
Yeah,
Um,
he doesn't even
but
he
even then,
doesn't. No, what I love even more is like, yeah, obviously he doesn't do it because he kills people. No, of course not. But I feel like a probably a better way to put it is he doesn't justify it either. Even though he killed people, he's not proud of it, and he's not even justifying the fact that it was self defense. He even says to Jigo, the monk, that two men are dead because of me, and he feels terrible about it despite the fact that they tried to kill him, which says a lot about him. And Jigo just responds by saying, "Oh, samurai thugs, you win some, you lose some." And he tries to, and Jigo just, he downplays it. I mean, he's not technically wrong either because they did try to kill Ashitaka, but that really says a lot about his character.
yeah, it does. But also, like to me, like even after like the third time I've watched it, yeah, okay. So we're sort of at the point where Ashitaka he meets up with Jiko for like about like a whole night. I really like how for about like the first 30 or so minutes it really is just simply Ashitaka and Yakul, the two of them, on this adventure until he keeps adventuring forward. He gets directions from Jiko about the Ball of Iron and everything, and he gets to Iron Town, and that's where like the whole plot of this movie and where a lot of the themes are utilized. Like this is where it just gets a lot bigger because you have the Iron Town, then you have the nature, like the whole forest and the forest spirit, which comes up later.
Right. Because, like you said, Jigo's the one that directs Ashitaka to Irontown by giving him a hint about the Ball of Iron, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this before. There's this place that has this ginormous iron mill where something of this quality would be," and he takes that and he
He
makes
takes that
his
and he runs with it.
he runs with it, and he goes off thanking Jigo, and what he finds is, as he's making his way to Irontown, not really knowing where it is. He's just he kind of just Jigo just says, "Oh, there's this place to the east. This really big iron mill with this like town surrounding it," and that's where he goes. Um, and
You know,
he comes across the two men that were part of that were from Irontown, that were with the caravan, bringing back a lot of wheat and grain to sustain the village, or not the village, Irontown, and we see the scene where you see this woman who's Aboshi, who's this commanding figure, who's commanding the people to move forward on their with the caravan, but she's also helping defend the the caravan as it's being attacked by San, her wolf brothers, and Moro. San being used as a distraction before Moro could go for Iboshi herself. And at this point, we have no idea why they're being attacked, but we of course learn. And this attack was sort of a way to have those two men that Ashitaka saves to be his direction towards Irontown. Uh, and a very important moment that I actually didn't even realize on with my first moment. So you knew that Moro, throughout the entire movie, San's mother was dying the whole time, right?
I I think so. I think
From
Moro
from that moment on, Moro was dying.
from what moment on?
The moment where we first ever see Moro and San and her brothers
That's
attack.
when she starts dying.
Well, remember the scene where they have this caravan of cattle and it's raining, and that was the first time we ever see a Boshi, and they all
Oh,
get
that's right.
attacked.
Okay.
Remember that scene?
And so, yeah, San starts to suck the blood out of her and
That,
spit it
that, that
out.
was a little bit after, but But you remember the scene I'm talking about, right? Before.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. What happens is Moro attacks them, and a lot of the men from the Iron Time get killed, and some of them get really injured and are left to die because, well, there's nothing else they can do. Um, but the reason, so what happens is Iboshi shoots Moro, and remember Moro falls off the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she shoots Moro, and the reason why Moro is dying from there is because the bullet was poisoned. And I didn't even notice this until like another watch of the movie. Um, and Son was sucking out the blood, trying to like help her out. But at that
It's
point,
like
she was dying and losing her energy.
like it is poison, but it's not exactly like hate or anything.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not hate because we don't ever either see
What do you
any
mean?
of like these.
What do you mean?
How do I describe it?
What do you mean hate?
Okay, so one thing I want to ask you about. Okay, so the boar at the start, um, that's just completely covered in hate. Well, I guess it's sort of like
He's completely
physically portrayed as like
he turned into a demon. Is the thing.
right, but like it's hate is sort of also. I think in this movie it's portrayed as like these like this huge swarm of black worms that covers around the character.
Pretty much.
Um, that's not what happens with Moro though. She just simply gets poisoned and she
Well, no,
weakens over the course
that's
of the
because
movie.
Moro isn't consumed by hatred.
Right, but how did that end up with like how did that happen with Naga? I think that's his name.
Because he was consumed by hatred. He's a boar, and boars are, like I said, they're very, like what's said in the movie, they're very stubborn.
They're very stubborn, but not many of the other. Well, I guess there was Pig Chungus.
Yeah, true. This is the
There's
pig.
Pig Chungus.
It's the pig chungus.
Yes, yes, it's the Pig Chungus.
But yeah, the reason why Nago became a demon was because, well, we don't know how long. We don't know how long it took for Nago to become a demon, but we do know that Nago was repeatedly attacking the villagers before what the Iron Town we see now was created. It wasn't until Iboshi came along with like her rifles and guns and was able to fight off Nago, and Nago had a bullet lodged within, and he was feeling eternal pain and suffering, and he just started to be consumed by hatred. The reason why Moro wasn't is because she is
He's what?
she's not consumed by hatred the way the boars are. She's not stubborn. She's wise. She's calm.
She's
And
more collected. Okay.
yeah, exactly. I mean, while she does hate humans, she doesn't really act upon it the same way characters like San do. You know?
Right. Okay. One thing I want to add on Jiko though, before I totally drop him for a bit, like at the start, he comes off as a relatively decent guy. You know, like he gives
I think we
Ashitaka
should save
directions
this for
and
when we talk
everything.
about the characters too.
Right.
Yeah, we should save this for when we talk about the characters. We'll go over him. But talking about the plot more, and let me just like probably wrap this up in a bit. Um, I really love how the story is structured because it's sort of the beginning of the movie is this abridged journey of Ashitaka making his way to Irontown, and then once he gets to Irontown, that's when the story starts. That's
Pretty
really when it
much.
starts, and we get this world building around Irontown and how it's just this prosperous town, but we understand that the way they are now is because of what they did to the forest, and that's what creates this man. That's what creates this man versus nature conflict, and that's what starts off this hatred between both sides. And
That is also like that does end up becoming the new like main focus of the movie at
right,
this point.
it does. And Ashitaka is sort of the mediator who he respects both, and especially the side of nature because of his love for San, and
Especially.
yeah, especially, and and that's apparent when we first meet him. When he first meets her, and when he first ever sees her, um, and we see that San is able to uh, we see that she's sort of conflicted when Ashitaka saves her, because while on one hand she didn't die, and even though she says she's not afraid to die, but she definitely isn't, she doesn't want to die either. Um,
Hmm.
and after Ashitaka is able to show his compassion by not showing any aggression towards her, even when she's almost about to kill him, he calls her beautiful because that's how he sees her, and because that's how he sees nature as a whole, and she is a representation of that, um, of the preserved beauty of nature. And she's able to, and she feels conflicted and is absolutely shocked to hear something like that. But ultimately, we understand that she took it pretty well, and takes him in
Yeah,
and feels something she's never felt before, being like,
like feeling the sense of compassion, like
yeah,
even in
feeling
like
this sense of compassion from another that she thought she would hate, you know?
even with like these very small lines of him just calling her beautiful, like even there's some at least some small sense, like some meaning behind those lines.
Yeah, of course. Um, and we see how their relationship develops as he's saved from a gunshot wound. Um, and we see, on the side, from after he leaves Irontown, and he has this huge impression in Irontown, has an impression upon all the people, Eboshi, but but he leaves with San, as everyone else from Irontown is, you know, they're shocked to see that, um, he would leave with San and not stay with them to help kill off the rest of the forest, and that's not who he is. Um,
He's not. In fact, I don't really think he's a part of either side. Really, if anything,
yeah, he's
he
not.
just wants two of them to just
Get along.
live harmoniously.
Exactly. Um, and I think what's great is, as we see the relationship, as we see San and Ashitaka's relationship develop within the forest, as they're getting along. We see on the side in other scenes how Irontown is developing and preparing for all-out war, and we see Jigo return, who is making a deal with Iboshi, and how he is in charge of this division of hunters, who are
Division of Hunters.
yeah, these hired hunters who are working together with Iboshi to eventually go hunt down, the forest spirit. And uh, we see also Irontown is fighting a war against, the Emperor's samurai. Uh, and while the Emperor's samurai and the samurai themselves aren't very important to the plot, and they
Yeah,
don't
I was
and
about to ask, like, what exactly is sort of the significance to like that entire scene because it's not dwelled on that much.
there's multiple scenes where the samurai are depicted, and I feel like, they're not important, but they do sort of help the setting of the film, because we understand at this time Japan was divided, um, into it was not unified. It was divided into multiple different tribes, and multiple different tribes and, types of people, and the emperor is trying to reign over all. And the reason why they're fighting this war is because, Irontown has, well, a huge supply of iron, and everyone wants that. And after Iboshi kind of pioneered the iron making, uh, everyone wants a piece of it now. And that's also why Jigo is working for her, because he wants to get paid, but he's also helping her get the, head of the forest spirit so that he can make a living, which is obviously really selfish, but whatever.
Wait, yeah, isn't it? Wait, isn't it Lady Eboshi who wants it mainly? Like, is she just?
No, no,
It,
it's Jigo that wants it. He just made a deal with her. If The deal was, if the deal was if Jigo helped them defend against the Boers who were attacking Irontown and the samurai that were attacking them. The deal was that they would also go out and get the head of the forest spirit, which not
That's
only
right.
would not only benefit Jigo because he was looking to get paid for that, but it would also benefit Iboshi because that way they could conquer more of the forest and take more land.
Yeah, I think the emperor just straight up says he announces anyone who gives him the head of the force spirit who will help him live forever. Like
No, no,
they'll
no. That was a completely offhanded line. Jigo said it early on in the movie that he just kind of just says offhandedly, I heard to actually talking. I heard that anybody who who finds a way for the emperor to live forever will be promised a mountain of gold. That was just an offhanded comment.
Oh, so that has nothing to do with the head
No,
of the force
that
spirit.
had nothing to do with it. No, because Jigo just wants the head so he can get paid for it. He wants to get rich.
Why?
Wario. Uh, and that's just sort of his deal. Um, but finally, I just love how the movie ends, where they all just
Oh my gosh.
work together to bring back the head of the forest spirit.
The,
And
e- the ending is magical, dude.
yeah, we're like it's. I feel like what starts off when how it gets interesting is the forest spirit's head comes off. At first, you think it's not going to happen, but then it does, and Iboshi kills him, and
Takes more than one shot to kill a god.
yeah. But another thing was Moro. After Moro died, Moro's head came off, and just sort of
Yeah,
wiggled
yeah,
around, and came off to bite off Iboshi's arm,
yeah. That's
and
freaky. Like her head comes off, but like it's still moving. That's freaky. And
I
then it
know
just jumps up and it totally
bites.
bites her arm off.
Yeah, and then Ganza, who's Iboshi's second and basically second. Um,
Who's the voice actor for him? Because like his, I no, I think I looked him up earlier, but his voice just sounds so familiar. Like
you
it's definitely
you
something I've heard before in
you de-
either.
you definitely have. Um, uh, I you've definitely heard him before. I remember he's voiced by John DiMaggio, and he's been in like a lot of cartoons. I specifically remember him from Kim Possible. Uh,
I
uh,
did not watch that show growing up.
yeah, I watched a little bit of that. He voiced like a villain. He voiced the main villain in that show, and that's where I remember his voice. His voice is very distinct, and I really like it.
Yep.
And I think he's also in Chowder or something. I think he's in that. I never watched it, but I'm pretty sure he is. Anyway,
Dude, man, it's been so long since I've yeah, this is totally off topic,
yeah.
but it's been so
Anyway,
long.
yeah. Back to the movie though. I like how
Right.
Iboshi says. Um, she makes a remark calling back to something she said very early on in the movie, saying, "It takes uh uh like you if you like cut off a wolf's head, it still has the power to bite," or something like that. And that's exactly
And
what,
that
and
is displayed.
that's exactly what happened to her. And
Yep.
and what I love is that you see Ashitaka, despite Iboshi literally killing the forest spirit, he still helps her and saves her life. And um,
Well, again, that's just because of what he just values in these people, like his morals. Like he still chooses to, even after everything that he's put through, he still tries to support these people because he still sees good in them.
yeah, despite the fact that also San's gonna be pissed off because she hates Iboshi, but Ashitaka is able to convince her in one of the best scenes where she takes the crystal dagger that Ashitaka gave her earlier, um, and tries to stab him with it, But instead of retaliating, he takes her in a hug and he apologizes and convinces her to help him out, and they both work together um, to uh, to save as many people as possible from Irontown, make it to the water, get the head back, and return to the forest spirit, and which results into one of the best ending scenes ever, where they where nature is all returned. It's like really quiet. It's serene. Nature and all the environment is returned,
But then it
and
slowly starts to come back.
it all slowly starts to come back. Ashitaka's curse is gone,
It's
and
lifted.
everyone else's injuries are gone too. Like for example, Kuroku, who's that one dumb villager that was with Ashitaka when he saved him, and also has that wife who's really mouthy.
Kind of a bitch at times.
I really like her character though. I think she's a bit underrated.
I
Um,
know, I don't mind her, but
I
she's
think she's kind of funny. I think she's funny.
yeah.
Like his broken arm is now fixed, and all of the lepers who were suffering of leprosy, their bandages came off, and they were all better. I feel like that's one of the details that a lot of people miss. And actually,
Really? I
yeah,
don't remember that.
it was very subtle, but you could see it, and because the lepers were actually helping defend Irontown as well. Um, and what's really cool is one of the things that San says. One of the final things she says is, "The forest spirit is now gone. He's dead." And Ashitaka responds by saying, "Never. He's nature itself, and he's telling us to live." Uh, and that eventually leads to San and Ashitaka's goodbye, where San says, "Ashitaka, you mean so much to me, but I can never forgive the humans for what they did." And he responds by saying, "I understand. I'll help out and stay nearby. I'll help out in Irontown, and you'll live in the forest. I'll always be near, and I'll be sure to visit you whenever I can." And then she just smiles, nods, and rides off. And I love that scene for so many reasons. And one of the main things is she's kind of come to terms with the whole, with she's kind of come to terms, and she's really been taught to, um, she's really been taught by Ashitaka to put her hatred aside and live her life, because even though she cannot forgive the humans for what they did, um, it's and even though she can never forgive them for what they did, that's not the same as her hating them. And
Hey, you know,
while she most likely does still t- not like a lot of them, it's great. That scene is great because she's not acting upon her hatred, you know. And as
hey,
she talk,
before I forget,
yeah,
dude, before I forget, I have to sort of get this out of my mind before I forget. Um, while I think a lot of these things about like just letting go of her hatred for the humans, like those type of things, are not like even if they're not super direct. I feel like these are the things that a lot of people at a young age are going to take out of this movie and really hold on to for the rest of their lives.
oh yeah, that's what I did.
I've learned eventually to just really let go of grudges at some point, because like really if you just continue to mope around and hate somebody forever and ever, you're at that point you're really just only hurting yourself. You're
Yeah,
not really hating that person that you're just directing the hate towards, because they're not receiving that whole thing has been long gone.
yeah, and the reason why San was referred to the villagers by the name Princess Mononoke is because that translates to vengeful spirit. And in San's life, she even admitted to this, was dedicated to killing Iboshi and getting revenge. But by the end of the film, that's completely gone away. And that was
She thought her
and there's
last name was Mononoke. What's wrong with
You're so dumb. You're such a retard. Bruh.
me?
No character in the movie has a last name.
sure? Wait a minute. I think you might be right. Are you
I
sure?
am right. No one has the last name.
I'm just not realizing that. Damn.
That's because uh, it doesn't really matter.
Dude, my last name is Nuts and my first name is Beast.
And let's be honest, back then, because this takes place in 1500s, 1400s Japan. Well, I'm sure their culture is a lot different, and they don't really use last names.
Probably not.
Yeah, um, and
Man,
especially not San, since she was raised in the fucking forest.
but man, dude, let me tell you, I really think just the part in which, like the very moment in which the Forest Spirit gets his head back, all the way up to just the very last moment of the movie, like that entire ending is just so perfectly executed, like in just like every sense of the word.
Yeah, it's perfect. It literally is perfect.
It
Um,
like I think just the music, like that long moment of silence before all of the chaos is just it's over. Like the
yeah,
movie, like it just like it starts off, pretty simple at first. Again, like it just starts off with Ashitaka and Yakul, but then he finds Irontown and San and like this huge forest. And then things just keep building and building and building, and the climax is just unmatched. It is ginormous. Like especially when the Force Spirit's head comes off, things just get so like it gets so catastrophic.
yeah, it does.
And then like at just the very last moment, like with all of this sort of tar, I guess, well, just really the spirit, you know.
Yeah,
Like it will just straight up kill you if you end up falling into that. If you just imagine if Wario like trips like on the rock and he just falls into the tar and he dies. That'd be pretty epic. But like, and then he just gives him back his head, and I'm telling
I
you,
even
like
like
that,
how at the very end of the movie, I even really like how how at the very end of the movie Jigo is the very last character I would ever speak, and he's like, "Well, I give up. You can't win against fools." And that's
yeah,
just how he's like. It's like, oh, okay, well, whatever, that's fine.
yeah. That's just sort of like the last note he ends on that movie to sort of like, okay, but what happened to Jiko? Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
He just sort of moves on. I like that.
But man, it just gets so climactic, and just by the very end of it, like everything just comes to a halt, and all the grass, all of it just grows back. Everything turns green, and it's beautiful. And the music,
Oh man, it's so good.
it's it's so it's just so beautiful. It just it never fails to get me emotional towards the end.
Yeah.
And
Um,
at one point, I think upon my second viewing, when I got the DVD and Blu-ray, it was like this DVD Blu-ray put it together in one like steel case. I watched it with my dad, and he, well, I mean, he doesn't even like. Well, not only does he not like anime, obviously, but he got nothing out of this movie, and I was just sort of like, what,
yeah, how could you not?
bruh? But
Um,
yeah, it's just such a just powerful statement, really.
yeah. Let's move on to
You
the
know?
characters now. I just want to say the characters we should probably touch upon the most are um, Ashitaka, Son, Iboshi, and Moro, and possibly some others too, like Jigo, and even some other minor characters like Kuroku, Toki, um,
Yeah.
and a few others. But the main character, let's like for example, Ashitaka. We already know what he's like. He's a calm, compassionate, and he has clear morals. But he also has flaws too. Despite him, of course, being a very like the most well-rounded character overall. I feel like
What
one,
exactly?
yeah,
Well, what exactly like are these flaws? I think they show through when the hate like he really struggles with it, and at some points it overcomes him. Like you have this moment in which he's forced to reach for his sword, I think.
Yeah, yeah. There's a scene where in Irontown, where where he is really really angry at Eboshi for harming the forest, and that's where his anger takes a hold of him, and he reaches for his sword but tries to resist it, and everyone else in the room is repulsed. Um, and and Eboshi says, does that arm of yours wish to kill me, Ashitaka?" Um, and and Ashitaka, and this is one of his major flaws, one of the most flawed this is one of his major flaws in his response, which no one really talks about, is is if if that if that meant if the fact my arm could kill you, and it would lift the curse, I'd let it tear you apart. But that wouldn't stop. But what wouldn't that wouldn't stop the hatred and killing, now would it? And Iboshi replies by saying, "Indeed, it would have to kill everybody in this room to be satisfied." And that was one of Ashitaka's flaws. He sort of admits that he would kill Iboshi if it meant that he would, if his curse would go away.
Yeah.
Which shows which shows that he's just desperate to get his to go away at this point.
Yeah, because if I were him, I would want it lifted, because that would mean, yeah, I mean, really, it's slowly eating at him. It's slowly killing him, But like over the course of the entire movie, you see this scab start to cover so much of his arm, and I'm pretty sure as well as his chest. No.
Yeah, eventually that's towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, it starts to really spread across him. But also, it kind of at the same time, it works as a double-edged sword for him in a lot of instances, because, he literally gets shot through the chest and he's still walking.
Yeah.
If he did not have that curse put on him, he probably would not have survived that.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have.
And even with dude, he literally gives this crystal shard to San, and she turns around and stabs him in the chest with it. And then he gives her a hug. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's great.
Man, dude, he's put through a lot of torment throughout this movie. You gotta respect him for it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, even if he's very very soft spoken and very respectable, that's not to say he's perfect or anything. And yeah, those moments, that's where his flaws show through. As for Lady Eboshi, personally, just this is just me personally. I know that you find really not much of anything to hate about her, but she's just kind of my least favorite character.
Oh no, I think there are things that are unlikable about her, but those are entirely intentional.
Well, if there were to technically be any real antagonist, which I mean there really isn't, if you think about it, it would probably go to either Jiko or Lady Eboshi. But even then,
I'd say Eboshi would probably have that title more because she's in the movie a lot more.
I think she would fill in that role, but it would kind of also
it would kind of go against the theme of the film,
Exactly, it would kind of defeat the purpose, because that's not really what they're going for.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. Even though I actually personally really like Eboshi as a character, I think she's awesome, and she's a very great character because of all the good she's done for Irontown. She's extremely flawed because of all the bad stuff she's done.
While the scenes in which I'm really enjoying myself, I'm enjoying myself with the movie the most, are the scenes that take place in the forest and such. But yeah, either way, Lady Eboshi, I mean, I can't deny that she's a very well developed character,
Right. She's extremely good. She's extremely well written, and I think one of the interesting parts about her that a lot of people miss out on is how much the people of Irontown just love her, and for good reason, because they mentioned that Eboshi just kind of showed up out of nowhere, and Eboshi kind of just showed up out of nowhere and just turned everything else in Irontown around and helped them prosper. They built proper fortifications. They built guns. They started an iron mill, and and allowed all the women in the village to prosper and become independent. Because what's interesting is it's described that the majority of the women were working as prostitutes, and um, and they were working in brothels, uh, and they all hated that previous life. But it wasn't until Eboshi came around, bought their contracts, and put them to real work,
Right.
and helped all these women prosper and make a living for themselves, without having to subject themselves um, to uh, to giving up their bodies for for
Prostitution.
prostitution, and that's a really great thing that she's done, you know.
Yeah, man.
Um, but going on
Yeah.
to characters like San, San is just she,
San has to easily be like the best part of the movie.
oh yeah, easily. She's not only she's just a great character, but she has the perfect balance of likable qualities, and who's just a complete warrior, and is a complete and is compassionate when she needs to be, even if she doesn't like to show it. And um, because even though she's a wolf in spirit, she's a compassionate human, even if she doesn't like to
I
admit it.
Yeah, like the funny thing is, I like in logic. I mean, if I'm thinking about this, like you would think I would just sort of end up like liking San like about the same as Lady Eboshi, that being not very much. But no, that's not the case. Like I love it whenever she's on screen.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
She is awesome, and yeah, like the whole fight scene with her and Lady Eboshi, and then Ashitaka just kind of comes in and just like draws the line there and
Yeah,
completely stops the entire thing.
yeah. The Sana's just great because, like I said, even though she's a wolf in spirit, she's a compassionate human when she needs to be, especially towards Ashitaka, where she's just sort of kind of developing this love for him that she didn't even realize that she had, and that she's been trying to repress and deny. Um, and there's also the how she goes out of her way to defend him, when talking to the boar gods, uh, and how important she is in her role in her clan. Um, she's just a great character, and I really don't know what the words to put it, but she just really represents the perfect side of the forest, where they're just fed up with the humans because they want their own land and territory back.
Hmm.
And I can't really blame them, even though if they are harming innocent lives, you know.
I also think like towards the end of the movie, it's like it's kind of implied that San and Ashitaka get together, but it's not it. Again, it's not like the main focus of the movie or anything
Right,
like that.
and that's what I really like about it, because the thing about Ghibli movies as a whole is that in the majority of them there is a romance between two characters, and I like that.
There,
But it's
there
not.
is.
But it's not the main theme of the story. It's not the main plot of it. Unless, well, unless if we're talking about like something like Whisper of the Heart, which is literally just a romance film. Um, but even then, that movie is still really really good.
Like
Um,
I mean, like the movie leaves you with just enough to really like leave the rest up to your imagination towards the very end
yeah,
because
because what happens is, like I said it before, um, Ashitaka says that he'll visit whenever he can while he's living in Irontown, and it kind of makes me think, oh yeah, you know, he's probably just spends the majority of the rest of his life with San in the forest after Irontown is rebuilt,
yeah, after
and
the entire thing is finished, she pretty much spends the rest of his life with her. And I remember this one line. Moro was just like, that boy wanted to
wanted to
spend the
share his
rest of his
life
life
with
with
you,
you.
and she was like, no, mom, I hate him.
Oh, I hate him. I hate all humans.
And then her brother brings up the
Wait, dude, wait. Is
what?
Son a furry? Bruh.
I love Mario, dude. I love Mario. Mario's my favorite game.
Time to take a
He
piss.
is.
What the hell are you doing?
I'm
taking
taking
a
a
piss.
piss.
Okay,
Okay.
but why aren't you jumping at me? That's
I'm.
what you're supposed to do. I
I might
might
do
do
it
it fucking
fucking
later.
later.
No, I'm a motherfucking anime. You're supposed to jump at me. Okie
Okay,
dokie
dokie
then.
then.
Let me pull up my pants again first, and then maybe I'll jump on you. Maybe? Maybe? Are you out of your fucking mind? No! Jump on me now, motherfucker! Let me get my pants. Fine.
Fine.
Shout out to Frollo. Had to put on that performance for him. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do it.
It's the greatest impression of him I've ever seen.
I try, man. I try.
Yeah, man.
Maybe someday I'll be a voice actor when I grow up. Okay.
But no, she's not a furry. Fuck you. Anyway, let's move on to the
I think we touched enough
We
on
touched-
Jico, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think we
there's not-
did. We also touched enough
I
on
mean-
dynamics as well.
I mean, there's really not that much to him generally.
Yeah, there's really not much, and we already pretty much talked about the dynamics and Son and Ashitaka's relationship. And personally, that being like one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite relationship in fiction, if I'm being honest.
Oh, absolutely, dude. And the like the ship art for these two characters. There's a lot of amazing-
that, and it's insanely good.
Dude. I think now that really all that's out of the way, dude. I mean, is there anything else you want to touch on, like
Yeah, we gotta-
theme wise or story wise?
Yeah, let's talk about the animation. I mean, there's really not much to say about the animation other than that it's the best thing ever.
Dude. Oh no, dude. There's like a lot of like these itty bitty nuances throughout this movie. Okay, this is probably, dude. The animation is just well. I mean, dude, like to say it's the icing on the cake would really be no, dude. It's like a big part of the cake, really.
It's like a big Chungus cake.
Oh my god, dude, Pig Chungus.
Pig-
Dude, Pig Chungus freaking dies.
We forgot to talk about Pig Chungus. Pig Chungus is an important character.
Dude, he's like this gigantic white pig, and he's like really big, but he's also a pig. He's
also blind. He's also blind too.
Dude, he's just kind of like Pig Chungus, and like he dies, and man, he's like the man. Why did he have to die of all characters? Why couldn't they have just taken like Wario or something? I didn't want to watch Pig Chungus die.
I know, Pig Chungus was epic. He was voiced by Keith David too. Keith David is epic. He for people who don't know, probably one of his most famous voice acting roles is I know you don't really know Brian, but one of his most popular roles as a voice actor was as one of the main characters in the Halo series, being a guy called the Arbiter, who's this alien guy. He's really cool. Anyway, yeah,
dude, the animation
it's so
across
good. The animation is amazing. I don't think
the animation is top notch. Honestly, look. Okay, so I mean, there are still plenty of animated movies coming out nowadays, but just so many of them are 3D animated.
I'm tired of it. There's barely any 2D animated films nowadays, and even then, like, I'm not even entirely opposed to 3D animation. It's just that the majority of it looks exactly the same, and it's all like
exactly.
And the art styles are disgusting and uninspired, and the animation is just kind of bland, and it's all from Disney and Pixar because they refuse to do 2D animation now.
Exactly, dude. Okay, hang on. Oh my god, dude. Okay, so look, really, honestly, I feel like just the entire industry, like the entire industry is like, it's just being carried by these two giants in, like feature film, like feature length animation and such. But the problem is, like, there's hardly any variety across these movies. Meanwhile, with Princess Mononoke, even if a lot of them take on the same 2D style, they all tackle just so many aspects of living and everything. But okay, look, take for instance a movie like Encanto.
Oh god.
Dude, I hated that movie, but I will say, I'll give it credit. Look, it is well animated, but like there's only so much credit I can give to them when this type of animation is now
it's objectively well animated, but it doesn't take much work in the grand scheme of the industry. It takes a lot of work individually, that's for sure, because I imagine the people busted their asses to finish it. But it's not very impressive considering how much of a standard it is.
Yeah, exactly. This is sort of the standard. This is to be expected from all upcoming animated films now. And you know what? Look, that can sort of be fine in its own way, but like Princess Mononoke, this is so much more impressive, especially considering the fact this came out in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
That is still insane to me.
Yeah, it's by far just the greatest animation I've ever seen, and to an extent, this also goes to Ghibli's all the other Ghibli movies, because the animation, while animation alone in a movie doesn't make it good, with Ghibli, I feel like it's one of the primary factors to why it's so amazing, because the way the characters are depicted, like I said before, they look realistic in its own world, and they feel human, and but there's also this whole fantastical environmental setting that really helps with the exaggeration that the animation is supposed to give, and it's fantastic.
Like every character is
So
like every
expressive.
character is what?
Every
What's that?
character, every character is so expressive.
Well, not only that, but like every character. So every character is colored in, but then they're also like the shading. It's like solid shading. It's not like soft shading or anything like that.
Right.
But it's still like it just adds enough of depth to just their character. But then they're put on top of like these beautiful environments that are all just. It is jaw-droppingly beautiful.
It is.
So many scenes. You can't even forget the one with like the forest spirit, but like you just see him as like the silhouette, and like all these trees are around him, and it's like bright yellow. You know what I'm talking
I
about?
do know what you're talking about. It's amazing.
Absolutely, just just the animation, like across this entire thing, it is an accomplishment in of itself. I mean, I can't praise. That's about as much praise as I can give it, really. And there are also these moments in which, like some scenes are more fluidly animated than others.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has like a good balance of both, really.
Yeah, there's not much for else I can really say. It's just awesome, and it's great. And I'm sad that there's not enough of it, because, well, the standard of animation now is really shitty 3D animation, and even then, unfortunately, Ghibli is hopping on that train, because a few years ago, Hayao Miyazaki's son, Goro Miyazaki, released
This 3D animated film I have not seen yet, but I've heard not so good things about it.
I am not going to watch it. Yeah, no. What's good is the animation. Not only is it not good, but it's also freaky as hell. But yeah, the movie did not get good reviews, and I'm not surprised. And I really hope they take that as a way to just stop doing 3D animation. Because
yeah, I don't really think this is like their. This is not really what they're best at, I guess. That's really the only way I can put it.
They're not good at it either, and even then, I think Goro Miyazaki should stop directing, because he's not a good director.
Damn.
Even Hayao Miyazaki himself thinks his son is terrible at it.
Dude, you're probably not wrong.
Yeah, he's just not good.
Also, okay, one last thing. To be fair to Disney, I mean, at the time when Princess Mononoke came out, wasn't Disney also making 2D animated films like this?
They were. In fact, the same year, one of my other all-time favorite movies, which is in my top 5. So, that same year Princess Mononoke released, Disney's Hercules released. And that is in my top 5 favorite movies.
Oh my god.
The Smart Alec.
Smart Alec movie?
The Smart Alec movie.
The Smart Alec movie?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. But yeah, no, dude, that movie is also fantastic in its own right. But
That's what that
that's not the point of this
that's
episode.
completely different like conversation.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I just love it. And those two movies came out that year, and they're some of my favorites.
definitely a great year for animation. Just on those two
Just
movies
for
alone.
those two alone, yeah. Um, but uh, we can but Hayao Miyazaki himself. Let's talk about him. Um, it's not even that much, just a little bit. Like you mentioned one of his quotes earlier about eyes unclouded by hate, and
Hmm.
I really like a lot of what he has to say about this movie because I really feel like Princess Mononoke, and I know many will disagree, is his magnum opus, and people will say that that would be Spirited Away, but no, I sort of see Spirited Away as his most critically acclaimed one that was able to reach all audiences um, because Princess Mononoke, even though if I believe it's kind of for everyone, it not it's not something everyone will watch because it's the only Ghibli movie that's like PG-13. Everything else is like rated G or PG.
Well, even then, it what was it rated PG-13?
Princess Mononoke is PG-13.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's PG-13.
Well,
Um,
honestly, like a lot of the time, like when I'm looking for a movie to watch or something, like sometimes like the age rating is just straight up not there. Like I won't even know if a movie is rated R or not. But of course, I'm at the proper age to watch R-rated movies. But like age ratings to me are kind of irrelevant when it comes to judging a film.
of course, I'm just mentioning the age rating because many children, of course, enjoy Ghibli movies, and a lot of them
Oh yeah.
probably won't be seeing Princess Mononoke, probably because due to parent restrictions at some point. But that's very young, because I know that a bunch of kids watch PG-13 movies. But
Yeah, and again, like this is probably still okay. Look, I know that me at this moment calling Princess Mononoke the best Ghibli film. There's no real weight to that since I've only ever seen so many, and you've practically seen almost all of them at this point, right?
I've seen most of them. I've seen almost every Miyazaki movie. There's only like one I haven't seen. I've seen 10 of them out of the 11 there are, and I've seen like a handful of the other Ghibli movies that weren't directed by him.
Well, anyway, like yeah, while I may not have seen that many, I also still can't help but feel like any other Ghibli film I watch, like after Princess Mononoke, is just kind of going to pale in comparison, even at the, if not just a little bit.
Uh huh. And
But Ponyo also, I mean, the animation in that, from what I've seen, also looks amazing. I mean, again, I watched like 10 seconds of it in pre-K, and
they all have amazing animation. Um, eh, but back to what I was saying about Princess Mononoke being Hayao Miyazaki's magnum opus. Many will disagree and say it's Spirited Away, but I see sort of Spirited Away as just kind of the most successful one, as amazing as it is, and because it reached so many audiences for kids and adults alike, and everyone kind of agreed it's just this fantastic film that really helps that kids can relate to. Um, but Princess Mononoke is just sort of the best sort of themes he's kind of put all together, and the characterization and the the morally grace and everything being so morally gray. It's amazing.
I
Um,
also I also think just sort of the idea of there being like there being the idea of there being a universally like agreed upon best Ghibli film is kind of weird, you know?
there kind of isn't, but there also kind of is. It really depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, I'm sure there would definitely.
Everyone says it's spirited. Like a lot of people say it's Spirited Away, but then you'll also get people saying, "Oh," but then you also get a group of people who have completely different opinions. Like some people might say it's My Neighbor Totoro. Some people might say it's Princess Mononoke. Some people might say it's Howl's Moving Castle. You'll get a variety of opinions, but but like a large amount of people will just say Spirited Away.
I've also heard some good things about Porco Rosso.
Oh, Porco Rosso. Yeah, that one's.
Porco
I
Rosso.
like that one, but that's my least favorite out of all of his ones. It's still good though. I like it.
Damn, really?
It's. I still said it's good. I still said I like it a lot. Come on,
Right,
come
but
on. Miyazaki's movies are such a high standard. Like they're all amazing. You can't expect me to like not have a least favorite.
bruh, no, I get you. But yeah, like, not to mention, dude, going back to the animation, like the attention to detail when those moments in which like they're sort of like running through the forest, but then you have like this light, these bits of light shining on them, but it's like going through the trees and stuff.
It's like, how did they do that? It's insane.
It's very clever, and not like you have like these animations of wind across huge plains of grass. Again, it's like all the little things that add up, and they make for such just a wonderful experience. And I mean, on top of that, dude, you have the freaking soundtrack.
Oh god, dude, the music is amazing.
Again, especially towards the end. I don't think, dude. Imagine the ending with just no music.
That would not
That
be.
would
It would not be as good.
it will not only would it not be as impactful, it would just be painful. Like, wait, what? Why is it just silence? Why is it just like this? Like, why is it just this nature ambience? Why is there no piano playing towards the end?
Yeah, because oh
I mean,
god, the final song that plays on the piano is one of my favorite songs of all time.
it's so just from a compositional standpoint, it is
Yeah, the
gorgeous.
composer for Princess Mononoke does the composition for literally every other single Ghibli movie, and every other single Ghibli movie has amazing soundtracks.
I swear they literally hired like all the greatest people they could get their hands on just to make this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And dude, what was the budget for this movie? That's actually a good question.
Let's see.
I'm gonna look this up real quick
I'm doing it. It's fine.
because I
Um,
understand.
the budget. Okay, so I'm also gonna convert it to USD. Um, hold on.
Well,
But while I'm doing this, you can continue talking about something.
yeah, okay, so um, well, I mean, like maybe the budget isn't like too important, behind the making of the movie,
It's
but
not, but it's an
like,
interesting thing. The budget is equivalent to 2.4 billion yen, but it's a 2.4 billion yen, but in USD that is equivalent to in USD that's equivalent to roughly 1.7 million dollars.
1.7, and a lot of movies nowadays they go for like 100 million.
More than that, like billions of USD.
Oh, Jesus. Like,
Because the thing is, Japanese yen. This is remember, like I said, 2.4 billion yen, which is equivalent to just under 2 million USD.
well, I do understand that like 2D animation. Well, probably a big part of why it's not as common nowadays is because it's just a lot harder to produce, and it's just a
Well,
longer,
it's also because
more
at the time, money was a bit different because inflation and everything.
right. Well, I mean, there's that, but I mean, especially nowadays, like 3D animation, to put it simply, it's just easier to make. It's
It's
easier to crank out and just pump
Unfortunately,
out.
yeah, and
You know,
they still have higher budgets because the only reason they have such high budgets now is because they go out of their way to get all these well-known voice actors.
you know what? Like, I don't think I've watched the sub. I've only ever watched the dubbed version
Oh,
of
we
this
should.
film.
Oh, okay. Well, sometime soon we gotta watch the sub.
Yeah, how is the subbed version?
It's really good.
Yeah, I assume it's really good.
It's just as good.
But man, like I still really just can't get over.
It's worth watching because there's also a few differences within the writing.
Well, that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, this type of animation is what I strive to make. Honestly, I mean, as crazy as that may sound, I mean, just kind of speaking personally, I mean, if there were to be any films that were really to inspire me to strive or thrive as an artist, it would be these kind of films
Yeah,
because these are the
I'm
ones.
not even really much of an artist in terms of drawing, but this movie still inspires me.
Yeah, it is really one that just really speaks to me. I mean,
I think
yeah,
we should also move on to the part about themes and morals. Though I think we kind of touched upon that on the way through a lot, but let's just wrap that up. Um,
yeah, and we could probably end it off with that.
yeah. Um, and one of the uh, greatest parts about this movie is its conflict of man versus nature, and its themes of, you know, everyone is basically good in the deep down, and finding the best out of the out of the worst, and the worst out of the best.
Exactly. This is definitely something that sort of hovers over the entire movie across its entire duration.
Right.
Um, I would also think the whole concept of like nature versus technology. Mario Miyazaki, he probably might have been ahead of his time when tackling
He's
these.
definitely ahead of his time. It's actually really interesting. I thought I'd bring this up just real quick. He's heavily criticized in Japan for certain historical aspects he implements in his films. And what I mean by that is because he criticizes Japan a lot in his movies.
Yeah, which movie was it that he made that ended up getting really controversial?
Yeah, so the thing is, he criticizes Japan in pretty much all of his movies, but one of them that's especially prevalent in is The Wind Rises, which takes place during World War II. It's not a war film, but it takes place during World War II, and he's heavily critical of Imperial Japan, and as we all know, Imperial Japan is messed up to say the least. Um,
Oh yeah.
Arguably worse than Nazi Germany. Um, and Miyazaki heavily criticizes the Imperial Japan because he was born into Imperial Japan before they lost World War II. Right before a few years before he was born, and this is important because he's very heavily critical of them for a lot of the terrible things they've done. Uh, and because
I mean, there
he,
definitely had to
be,
have been some people against all these things, and he
yeah,
just so happens to have
yeah,
been one of
and
them.
the thing about Japan at the time is that they were all brainwashed and into thinking that they were doing everything right, and even though they committed so many war crimes. Um, and unfortunately now, it isn't really talked about in Japan because they all like to forget it never happened, which is very insulting in a way. Whereas you look at like a country like Germany, which has repeatedly acknowledged all the terrible things they've done and memorialized all the people they were responsible for being killed. But no, Japan doesn't do that, and Miyazaki is pissed off about that. And one thing he implements within The Wind Rises is the characters within it are heavily critical of Japan as a country, and as a result, Miyazaki was called anti-Japanese, and
Bro,
he was called, and people called other Japanese critics called Miyazaki's film a left leaning propaganda film.
bro, dude, are you anti-Japanese?
Hell yeah.
Bro, I'm anti-Japanese. I hate anime.
I hate anime. No anime.
No, no, no anime. None.
None.
No, none here, folks. This is not anime.
No
I swear to
anime.
guys.
No anime. Only Ghibli.
Guys, Ghibli is totally not anime, guys. I swear.
I swear it is not. Do
I,
not.
I, I swear. Look, no anime. We will accept Mario though,
I love Mario.
dude. Mario, he should have been in Princess Mononoke. Okay, no, I'm taking that back. Mario.
My balls.
Shut up. Shut up, dude. This is oh, anyway, okay. But like as for like Miyazaki, I mean, being upset about all these things, about not memorializing all these things, and
I think we're kind of beyond that. I think I kind of said all I need to say about that. But yeah, Japan is kind of messed up even now because they don't even properly teach history.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, like, yeah, he's pissed, understandably so. You know, like that just makes total sense to me.
If anything, I admire him in that way because there aren't that many people in Japan who speak out against their country's own atrocities.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I imagine it.
They just try to pretend it doesn't exist.
It's a pretty ballsy move on his part, definitely.
Yeah. It's especially ballsy considering a man of his age.
Roger Waters was kind of ballsy. Anyway. I'd say, I mean, I'm not sure what else really needs to be said. I mean, like, this movie, I really think this movie lives up to its hype.
It does.
I mean, without question.
Anyone who says it's overrated is dumb.
Bro, overrated? More like freaking... Well, I mean, really, dude. I mean, you just can't argue with Princess Mononoke. I mean, it's just an absolute masterpiece. I mean, from every angle you look at it, Princess Mononoke as a film, as a complete, like, just animated film, it feels very well thought out. It feels fully planned, fully developed, and just complete. You know, it's not like whatever the hell that new one came out, which...
let's not talk about that.
I mean, it's probably going to end up being a complete and utter mess in comparison.
Yeah. I usually don't say things like this, but San is my waifu, bro.
Uh-oh, you said the W word.
No, do not.
No. Oh, but this movie, it just feels fully realized. You know, like, I mean, there's really not much more that they could have done to improve this movie, and that's why
I think it's perfect. It really is perfect.
And that's why it deserves a 10 out of 10 label in my mind. There's very few movies out there I'd give the 10 out of 10 to. This is definitely one of them because, I mean, it's Princess Mononoke. That's why.
That's kind of all you need to say. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and support us on Patreon and OnlyFans and
no.
And what else?
Shut up. No OnlyFans. What the fuck? What are you talking about? That's gay.
You're gay.
No. In all seriousness, though, it was great to actually talk about this in like a long, extended, recording for the channel because after I saw that Pink Floyd video, I had to be a part of this.
You definitely had to step in and really just. I mean, look, if you're watching this and you still like haven't seen this movie and this wasn't like enough to really convince you to go check it out.
Yeah, I have no idea why you haven't seen it if you're watching this.
Yeah, what the heck's wrong with you? Go watch this movie. I mean, we will come to your house and freaking kill you. Yes, that's a death threat on this channel. I don't care.
Yeah, you can take us down, YouTube. We don't care.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, hope all you Pig Chungus fans have a good night, and I guess we will see you next time.
Bye.